and gentlemen, the distinguished speakers for today's interaction on making high rises sustainable are Mr. Praveen Eknath Thade from K-Arc Architects, Mr. Tushar Srivastav from Capacity Infra Projects Limited, and Mr. Sandeep Roy from DLF Limited. We are also expecting Mr. Ashutosh Jha from Gensler.
First question, however, which has been on my mind, and I wanted to clear that out first is now I happened this in a closed-door conversation with Mr. Guy Perry, who was once managing the smart city business for one of the well-known infra groups in India. He pointed out that India, as such, does not need any high-rises or gated communities. He believed that in a way it was creating a pattern of classes and masses rather than creating an integrated and a healthy society. So he believes that we don't have to become Dubai or Shanghai. So I wanted to know from each of you, what are your thoughts on this?
I mean, your own wordings, because it's a status symbol opulence and the power. I totally agree with you. Definitely, high-rise is not the need. Except Mumbai, I don't see anywhere in the country. Delhi, it's a different norm. I think Mr. Roy would know it, being one of the prominent developers there, that in Delhi, the cost of ground floor flat is more than the top flats. In Mumbai, it's the other way around. We are a landlocked portion. We don't have land. And in Mumbai, if you see for the next 15 to 20 years, there's only going to be redevelopment. So what do you do when you go for redevelopment? It's a landlocked portion you don't have. So whatever you can do is go vertical, right? Now, sustainability, as I said, encompasses the entire life cycle of the project. So the last part is the demolition of a particular building and making a new building. So the effects in Mumbai also needs to be seen. What are the effects after you demolish a particular building and how you would take up the new developments. High-rise construction, as I said, in Mumbai would be in demand in the days to come also, because people don't have an option. Okay. Now, what we can do from the sustainable point of view is, reduce the energy consumptions. There are a lot of techniques which have come in the lift models also, where there is less usage of electricity in the vertical transportations. There are a lot of common areas where people can meet and they would not want to come down and things like that. There are a lot of projects where there are, taking examples of the biophilic design, one of the projects that we have done, it has got almost 15 acres of green land, the portion or the green landscape portion, where you have right from the football fields to your gardens, to your amphitheaters, and so on and so forth. So developers are making efforts. It's not like that they're not making efforts, but yes, it's a long way. And in Mumbai, we'll have to live with it, that tall high-rises will keep on coming. The idea is that how you bring in that sustainability angle in reduction of, the more concrete usage, in the vertical transportation. Mostly, you would only come to know once you start operating a particular building. Because frankly speaking, we are talking about tall high-rises, okay? But nobody has the experience of living on the 80th floor till now. Let's be practical about it. The maximum people have lived just up to the 60th floor. What happens in the 80th floor? When you have the clouds coming into your balcony, how would you, and there is no balcony, you're absolutely landlocked. So how it will go in the future, time will tell.
Mr. Tushar, you said that, high-rises are essential for Mumbai. So I have a concern, how high-rises will be friendly for these coastal cities like Mumbai, because we are seeing that many high-rises in Mumbai and other coastal cities as well. How it is impacting the ecological factors?
As I said, making a building itself is detrimental for the environment. You're using, we'll be out of business if I'm talking on these lines, because built environment is required by everyone. You require houses. We are a developing country. There would be a need the idea is to bring out that sensitivity towards the environment on using reusable materials, and not going tall. You forget about Mumbai. Let's keep Mumbai aside, because Mumbai we will have to live with it. And the bits and pieces from the contractor's point of view, architect point of view, from the developer point of view, we will be making those efforts. We will be making those efforts to make it sustainable. But it's a long way to go for us. Developing countries are at the stage where they are wanting to demolish a tall high-rises. I don't think so. In India, we have demolished a tall high-rises as of now. Thanks to the Supreme Court, there is a demolition in Noida of one of the developers, which is a forced demolition. But we haven't operated a building for 50 years and we haven't demolished it. We don't know, that with the usage of that particular landmass, what all things it has been utilized in terms of the natural resources, the water, the recycling of the waste, the recycling of water, so on. So it's again, we are on a learning curve. It's very difficult to quantify or give a judgment right now. So I think 10 years from now, I'll be in a much better position to tell you.
Yeah. The question that Vikas basically asked, there is no one answer that fits all, obviously. There is a question of city that Tusharji was pointing out. It's not just also only a city, it's even a zone within a city, what you call a CBD. Do you want everything to be there? And what's the other alternative? You can say that, okay, in certain cities, you do not need to go up. That's fine. Let's theoretically say then I'm going to spread out horizontally. I'm going to create sub-cities like we are doing all the time around Delhi. We are creating these sub-cities. You then need to start connecting those cities back with each other with 90-meter, with humongous expressways, public transport. You are spending every day on those commute, and you are spending on petrol and diesel, and that also adds up to your pollution. So there is really no one answer to it. It is seriously a question of doing it judiciously and doing it with the right technology. That is all I'm trying to say. Even in Delhi, even in a small cosmopolis like Gurgaon, we have these zones where things have gone high-rise, where it's not necessary to go high-rise. Fair enough, don't go high-rise. But just don't, let's be very dogmatic about it, because spreading horizontal also has its natural cost.
Yes, Mr. Roy. It is clear. So one of our delegates was also asking a point about high rise, that is there any existing legal framework available for regulating such high rises?
Generally speaking, yeah, of course. Almost all cities have. I mean, that's a very generic answer. All the bylaws are driving it. There are green rules that are driving it. Not only the city bylaws, the fire laws are applicable. NBC is applicable. So, frankly, India never has any shortage of laws. It is always the application of it and the monitoring of it.
So we do have the legal framework available. Mr. Praveen. Yeah, sure. Absolutely. Yeah, thank you. I mean,
see, I think if I remember about 10 years back, Gurgaon had a height ceiling of just 60 meters. We couldn't do anything more than 26-story building in entire Gurgaon because then they allowed it to go anytime up, then to an infinite levels up. Then the fire department realizes they don't have firefighting possibilities. They don't have those fire tankers. They had to import those fire tankers just because of a rule change. So things are connected to each other, but the regulatory framework is there.
Yes, thank you. Mr. Praveen, we would like to hear from you on this about this.
Mumbai is overcrowded day by day. So second tier city is most important. If you see around the Mumbai, there is a Pune is more growing city now, like a metropolitan city. And nowadays, second tier city is most important for the all of us for developing all the job opportunities, industries. So all the rural people can easily nearby he can job opportunity available. So more home and more sustainable environment where we can create more facilities, more education facilities, hospital facilities we can provide. So second tier cities most important role needs to be government needs to be provide for infrastructure where we can avoid the burden on cities.
So Praveen, just with respect to the presentation you made, you spoke at length about the use of smart technologies. In the present conditions, now that's already a 12-floor building. Yeah, it's
Right.
It's in proper shape and sound. So now I'm pretty sure there are many such buildings, across Mumbai. So if now these buildings have to, become sustainable using smart technologies, can we do it, or do we have to just bring them down and rebuild?
So there is technology available where we can use many things like PMS system, building management system, where we can install in the building and use like LED lights, solar panels, green walls, gardening, rainwater harvesting. This type of things we can do, so easily we can achieve the sustainability in existing building. And nowadays many residents prefer that in Mumbai. More aware new generation are coming and they are more taking care of the nature. They require the living space, proper living space.
Yeah, even I think Sandeep sir want to say something to it. Yes.
Yeah, I just want to take that question specifically because it's very much doable for one reason, and again, technology has come to the rescue. IoT, Internet of Things, is getting into our business quite a bit right now. So if I have to refurbish an old building into a new smart technology, it's not necessarily that I have to again pull out miles of cables and relay miles of cables. It's almost everything other than electricity, which still cannot be sent out wirelessly. But other than that, almost everything is getting into wireless technology right now, and as IoT. In fact, we are doing one building. In fact, the building I am sitting and talking right now will be undergoing that change, and we are working on that. It's a 20-year-old building, and we need to upgrade it to the full smart technology now. So IoT has come to rescue from that point of view. Complete refurbishment is available without minimal intervention with respect to physically running cables, wires, and the old things that we use.
Yes, that's very impressive. And also, Mr. Tushar, many of the architects as well as contractors and developers engage this conversation of vertical accommodation for slums for big cities like Mumbai. How do you see it as a feasible solution? Because people are habituated for horizontal accommodation, and all of a sudden we are talking about vertical accommodation of 25, 30 floors of slum rehabilitations. How it is, how do you look at it?
I would rather put it as it is a necessity. So now in a place like Mumbai, you don't have an option. You will have to live with it because 60% of Mumbai is still covered with slums. There are a lot of slum rehabilitation schemes going around with all the leading developers. They are wanting to decongest, okay, or utilize. I would rather say utilize that particular land for making extra saleable components. So as far as the landlocked portion Mumbai is concerned, we don't have an option. We'll have to create land for newer buildings. But at the same time, there is also a need to understand the amount of burden is going to pose on the existing infrastructure, whether it is roads, whether it is your drainage systems, whether it is water supply, electricity, and so on. When we talk about sustainable developments as a topic is, we have to see that how self-sustainable that building is. Are we able to make a building which is generating its own power? Are we using recyclable water so that they're not dependent on the municipal water supply, at least for gardening and for washing the cars and things like that? Are the existing drainage systems that much competent to take the additional load of that high density vertical building which will come? So again, see, as I said, it's a collective effort. where there is not a solution, we'll have to find a solution. And I think government, developers, architects, and contractors, they're all taking small steps now, so that we can make these vertical livings more sustainable and not to be too dependent. In bits and pieces, like Mr. Praveen highlighted, use of smart technology, where the dependence on the actual electricity is on the lower side. Vertical transportation, a lot of levitation techniques have come in for the vertical transportation, which uses less energy. So the idea is not being dependent on the energy consumption, because the usage of the building is defined, it will be actually defining your project as sustainable or not sustainable. And of course, the use of materials, alternative use. Unfortunately, we don't have a alternative to concrete when it comes to high rises. We'll have to live with that concrete. But how reduction in the slab thicknesses and the rest of or increase in the slight reinforcement can reduce the carbon emission into the atmosphere, those things are to be debated, agreed upon, and move forward.
Yeah. So when we talk about this again, couple of factors comes into consideration, like say we talk about sustainable construction or sustainable high rises. It comes with a lot of cost attached to for a developer is concerned. And how it's long run. Yes, you say what you say is right. It may absorb the ROI, but how a developer get convinced for such projects?
In a place like Mumbai, I don't think so. If I say the development is sustainable, you're going to get extra rupees per square feet. That's a fact. Okay, so unless and until, like Mr. Roy, they have constructed a lot of commercial complexes where a lot of MNCs come. Okay, now where there is an end usage where people are going to stay there, I don't would foresee the word sustainable is making any kind of difference, to the sellability angle. But when it comes to the commercial developments or horizontal development, where you have commercial complexes, where you are making small townships, where you are inculcating the thought of walk-to-work concept, where you have your office in front. There are a lot of developments here, which Hiranandan is done in Powai and in Thane, where you have your offices, you have your housing units next to it. You have the retail areas. So there is a kind of a self-sufficiency, when it comes to. So that's where ultimately you will lead to a self-sustainable development. But for it requires a land part. You cannot have self-sustainable development in a landlocked portion. Unfortunately, we'll have to live with it. But in bits and pieces, whatever damage we are doing, if we can lessen that, I think that will add value.
Yeah, self-sustainability is essential, but it also, matter of concern regarding safety. We still remember the, tragedies which happened in Bhuj. I mean, almost a decade back. Or if you see how when we think about skyscrapers or tall buildings, we are also concerned about the safety aspect. So, Mr. Praveen, my question is to you: what are the technologies available to ensure that, or what kind of preparation done to make sure that these buildings are earthquake resistant, or it takes care of the ecological threats?
Basically, all the buildings particularly in Bombay, are designed as per building codes. There is a Indian building code and NBC which are followed by structural engineer. And as a design architect point of view, main concept for designing for high-rise building is main central building code. All the high-rise building need to be designed as per central core design system, where staircase and lift is centrally located, and which is designed for lateral forces and wind forces. So structural engineer, before executing, they can analyze about 50 years future, what type of wind, what type of natural disaster is sustained when building is living 50 years. So software, on the software, structural software like ETABS or wind tunnel system, which are used for high-rise building safety purpose, which long lasting for 50 years. So software can give you the analysis where which forces, which type of thickness, slab thickness, column system, structural system used for the high-rise building. So there is no worry about earthquake for high-rise building, which is taken care of structural engineer.
Yeah, that's great. Mr. Sandeep, my question is to you that we are in the middle of even a smart city moment, and how this high rises will go hand in hand with the smart cities.
I don't see a conflict, frankly speaking, and I'll explain why. Because essentially, smart cities are about management of an ecosystem. It is not just making a clever building or not just about sustainability. It is about an overall management of an ecosystem, and we are getting better and better at that. In terms of high rises, for example, a real high rise of a skyscraper of 200 meters or what the kinds that you see in Bombay, they are cities by themselves, right? You have got a parking area there, you have got things moving up and down, you have got various zones, and you have to protect it, you have to secure it. I see the smart city movement and the relationship of a high rise from that point of view. The facility managers basically in these buildings by themselves, what all they're doing is they're managing the building just like in a smart city you would be managing all the systems and operations. The rest of it, sorry to put it this way, but the rest of it on smart city is a lot about gadgetry and technology that you build in. End of the day, a smart city is successful or a failure on how good you manage those systems. That's purely there is to it. So I see a good parallel, whether it's a horizontal city, which is a smart city, or a huge skyscraper, which by itself is a city in itself. We have to manage it properly. And as long as we do that correctly, there is no.
You rightly said. I request you to create a closing statement for this session.
Actually, this subject, when Vikasji called me regarding high-rise building sustainability using smart technology, I'm as a design architect, I'm very much interested in designing high-rise building and using smart technology. One thing, just you saw my first slide. I taking seeing high-rise building as a human body. So it's a soul. It's a soul. Every human use each and every building. Rather, residential, his own house, or he's working in his office, commercial office. So it's a high-rise building means it's a human soul, which needs to be taken care of with the help of, as a design architect, I have to plan proper light ventilation each and every building without any mechanical ventilation for high rises. And as a structural engineers or project manager, we have to put the same effort what I have designed in designing in building, so make them proper human being, like for high-rise building.
So, Mr. Sandeep, one just final question. Like, I saw the beautiful projects that you made a mention of. Also, the one in Milan, I think it is Stefano Boeri Architects, if I'm not mistaken. So, the adoption of biophilic design, do you feel it is, the hotels and the hospitality sector would probably, fall in line with that, because it makes a lot of business sense rather than the residences?
But to be very frank, my guess is hotels will be the first one to adopt it for obvious reasons, because they can probably afford it, to be very frank. As far as it, usually these kind of new things residential will be the last one to bring it in. That is my prediction how it will go. The next level will be the commercial and the offices. But on the other hand, I wish and I hope residential adopts this, because that is where you spend your nicer times of the day, and you spend your hard times of the day in the work. So you may have a garden outside, it may make a little bit of a difference, it won't make, but when you are relaxed, that is when you need them. So yes, like the Milan project, I hope more and more residential buildings start pulling this in, but keeping my fingers crossed, I think it will be the last sector to adopt it.
Thank you, panelists, for exchanging your valuable thoughts on today's topic, making high-rises sustainable. We hope you have enjoyed it thoroughly. Before wrapping up today's session, we would like to thank our distinguished panelists, Mr. Praveen Eknath Khade, Mr. Sandeep Roy, and lastly, Mr. Tushar Srivastava. I would also like to thank my associate editor, Mr. Vikas Bhadra, and my editor, Mr. Prasad Nayak, for taking this beautiful initiative. We would like our delegates and viewers to stay connected with us on our social media handles. ACE Update is available on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Additionally, you can also download our app from Google Play and App Store. So with this, we would like to announce the closing of today's session. Request you to stay tuned for such more sessions. Thank you and goodbye.